Welcome to Facts for Real Videos. This is Haikou, the provincial capital of Henan, China. More than 2 million individuals call it home. Although not even in the top 50 cities in the nation in terms of population. Nevertheless, even though it's a little city by Chinese standards, it's home to numerous skyscrapers and other large structures that were all constructed after 2000. But that's all about to change. China, the country with the most skyscrapers per capita, has recently tightened regulations in its larger cities and significantly expanded its ban on the construction of super-tall buildings. As a result, even smaller skyscrapers in locations like this will now be prohibited. You might recall our July 2020 video wherein we addressed some rather remarkable news from China. The Ministry of Housing and Urban-Rural Development there announced that it had just outlawed the construction of buildings taller than 500 meters and severely restricted plans to build buildings taller than 250 meters. The entire city was planned to resemble Paris, Venice, London, and Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It also put an end to the trend of copycat architecture, which saw numerous cities sprout enormous and somewhat strange reproductions of famous global landmarks. The Eiffel Tower. Look at that location. Even though some analysts predicted China's infatuation with skyscrapers would eventually subside and that the country would stop adding structures to the list of the world's highest buildings, which many were surprised to learn it dominates. Another government announcement from October 2021 is where things really start to get interesting. Cities with less than 3 million people would no longer be allowed to develop skyscrapers taller than 150 meters. The height at which a building can no longer be classified as a skyscraper. If it already was, all larger cities would be restricted to a maximum height of 250 meters, which is less than half the height of the highest buildings in China. Special exemptions could still be granted in the event that a small city is in dire need of a new skyscraper. However, they are unable to go higher than 250 meters. If a larger city has a strong case, they may be able to go higher still. But if it wants to go over 500 meters, forget it. There are now no longer any Shanghai towers, Ping and finance centers, and that's it. In addition, there are new regulations that stretch beyond the 100-meter line, over which a building must comply with specific seismic and fire safety standards. Therefore, the issue is, why wasn't China surviving just well prior to its spectacular cropper boom, which enabled it to attain the incredible rates of development it has enjoyed since the 1980s. I'm not surprised at all that these new regulations were implemented. In fact, some experts kind of anticipated it coming. However, not everyone was astounded by the new restrictions. Because it has been evident in recent years that the Chinese government is beginning to place greater emphasis on the qualities of buildings as well as the features of Chinese towns. A senior lecturer at the University of Liverpool's School of Architecture, Dr. Fei Chen, works in the United Kingdom. She specializes in urban design and public space. Over the past 30 years, China has experienced an incredible and rapid increase in urbanization. As a result, many buildings were constructed quickly and to a low standard, which the Chinese government has recognized as a problem. Incidents like this one that occurred in May 2021 have only served to heighten such worries about quality. Officials are also eager to stop more vanity projects, which are buildings designed primarily for show rather than function. These buildings occasionally result in more floor space than could ever be filled and arguably give little consideration to the surrounding area. The footage of a Shenzhen skyscraper trembling uncontrollably went viral. However, there are also extremely rare instances where cities are trapped with partially constructed buildings because of significant financial difficulties that arose during the building process, such as Golden Finance 117 et al. As we've previously discussed on this channel, there are additional environmental factors, such as the increased strain and the high wind pressure and urban heat island effect that numerous buildings cause in their immediate surroundings. They can be included to the transportation network of our city. Because most of those buildings are out of context, there is also a societal concern. Chinese cities have a lengthy history of development, and the majority of them still contain many old buildings. The majority of these buildings are low-rise, with an emphasis on tiny cities that haven't experienced the same level of tremendous expansion yet. They also don't fill up with towering structures that aren't necessary. However, Dr. Shen feels that while the new regulations clearly state what you cannot do, they don't go into great depth about what you should do in its place. This is due to the fact that Chinese cities vary substantially throughout regions, making it challenging to adopt a universal strategy. One of China's fundamental characteristics is its vastness, with major differences in historical ruins and levels of development between its many cities. Because of this, it's very difficult to determine what to do from a central government issue document. Instead, local authorities, planners, and architects are encouraged to make that decision for themselves, making sure that whatever they come up with fits within the existing context rather than aiming for absurd heights or both. Everything makes logical, but why is this happening now, and is there any connection between the timing and the other Chinese situation, known as Fairyland, that attracted international notice in 2021? But it seems to be a deserted town. Its debt exceeds $300 billion, and it has missed payments on 2 foreign bonds. Of course, we are referring about the current real estate catastrophe, which has witnessed the battle of developers like Evergrande, one of the largest in China, to settle enormous debts, sell their inventory of homes, and get new funding. This is heavily influenced by the recent economic shifts that have occurred in this environment. They began promoting the circular economy across the nation. There will be many ghost towns in the future because they do not believe that increased international trade is a viable way to live. They construct residential buildings, but in many cases, particularly in the inland cities, no one buys them. The past cannot be altered by the new regulations. However, they might be able to stop similar problems from occurring in the future. Despite the fact that it's a complicated problem that height limitations alone cannot resolve, overall feedback has been largely positive. Although some people may find this decision depressing, it's likely the best one. We won't see another Chinese super tool. Smaller communities will have to find new strategies in the future to be included on maps. It appears that China's unquenchable progress is about to enter a new era in which the economic and architectural integrity of its cities is more important than it has ever been. Be sure to subscribe to Facts for Real videos if you like this one and want to see more from the construction industry's premier video channel.